I would encourage anybody, to not jump off the bridge because everybody else is doing it, right? Be your own person. That's the New Yorker in me too. Right. New Yorkers are so resolute in being their own selves, right?
Hi, I'm Eric Weir, and welcome to my show, Stuttering Your Way to Success. Today, we're going to talk with Robert Donovan. Robert, I've known about 3 years. Truly interesting guy. I've really enjoyed getting to know him. He's in everything from guarded presidents. He's guarded Colin Powell. He's worked at embassies. He's founded companies, and he's a visionary too. And he has an idea for our hometown, Greenville, on how to change it and make it a better place for all of us to live. So Robert, let me start with what brought you from California to Greenville, South Carolina, and tell me about that experience.
Well, I'd have to say that I have my wonderful wife, and she's from LA, and it was the middle of COVID, and my companies were here, and it just made sense to consolidate. I once heard somebody say that in COVID, what happened is bonds strengthened that were already strong, and bonds that were loose broke. Right. So I think that my bonds in California probably weren't as strong as they were here in Greenville.
Okay. So. Great. Now, what I'd like to talk a little bit about your military experience and what you did there. So what was it like working at an embassy, guarding an embassy, and seeing all the people you'd interact with? And what was that like?
Well, I have to say, my job was a little bit mundane on the day-to-day, and I would pretty much see everybody coming in and out of the consul office, which was the people who wanted a visa to our country. And that was when you would see the normal embassy guard in the uniform. Where it got exciting is when there was a congressional delegation or a presidential delegation going a country or two over. And then they would recruit people like me to go and secure the hotel and be there before and after. And that's when things were exciting. So
how did your life change with September 11th, and what were you doing, and who were you assigned to?
So I was assigned to Colin Powell in Lima, Peru on September 11th. And it's funny because if you check out any of my social media, there's a picture of me standing there with him about 15 minutes before the towers fell. And then they fell, and protocol kicked in. And the protocol is we had to get him in the air. So we were actually putting him in a motorcade to go to the morning meetings that day. And all that went out the window, and we were getting him straight to the airport. Jets were inbound. I mean, he was going in the air. We were trying to get him back into our airspace. It was crazy.
Wow, that sounds really intense. So what key lessons did you learn in the military that have been components of your success in business?
Well, I would say that, first off, the military is very regimented and disciplined, right? I had a very strong male figure in my life when I grew up. And I would say that going into the military, that regimentation was just amplified, and doing what I had to do, even if I didn't want to do it. There's a saying when we were out there in the middle of the rain, and it was cold rain or snow, and we're sitting there in a foxhole or whatever, in the Marines, there's a saying, I love how much it sucks here. I wish it would suck more, but that was really kind of counterintuitive motivation to say, it's not that bad. It could be worse. Right.
Oh,
so that mental fortitude to keep doing it, even if, your toes are cold, everything's cold, the food isn't hot, nothing's going good. I mean, it's really, it's a do or die kind of deal. And those and that's just training.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's just training, let alone a combat situation. So in those moments, that's when we realize, who are you going to rely on when the bullets are coming down range?
Right. If you're facing bullets and stuff like that, I mean, running a business is benign, I would imagine. So I mean, you're very excited. You're passionate about life. Tell me about some of the businesses you either own now or you're starting. What are you up to?
So we have marketing technology businesses. So all of these marketing systems that supply ads to everybody, the ones that creep you out, the ones that you click on Instagram, they all have these back-end kind of tools called APIs. So I can build a piece of software and I can get all of the ads generated within our system, and then I can push them out to Google and to Meta and to Bing and to TikTok and all these different places. And then I can throttle the client's budget to give them maximum ROI. And that's pretty much most of my day is we're dealing with that. We're pushing traffic to people's websites, either organically or on the paid side. We maintain people's websites, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun because there's always something new. There's always something fun and exciting. Right. And I like doing creative things and creativity in the olden days in advertising. It was print, radio, TV, direct mail. Now it's multidimensional. You have to understand what JavaScript is and how JavaScript functions and, what you can do with cascading style sheets, CSS and HTML and all of these different things, and meld all that together and put the client's campaigns together. And that's fun.
Well, how has emotional intelligence, I mean, how has that played into your development personally and professionally?
I am like a lifelong student of emotional intelligence. I am not good at it by any means. I have gotten better over the years. I would say it's my biggest area of opportunity. I'm super vulnerable there. I'm humble. I read all the books I can on it. I listen to the podcasts on it. I think that this comes down to a question for me that I wish I could figure out. But did I come out of the chute this way? Was it environmental? I don't know. I think that as we get older, maybe we're not as, aggressive or in your face, if you will. But this is, I came up out of nothing, and I felt like for a lot of years, it was like, well, I got to protect, whatever I got, because that person's going to take it away from me or whatever. Or I got to protect my employees. Like, I don't consider myself to have a car payment. I have 70 car payments or mortgage payments or whatever. So I take that super personal. And if anyone wants to threaten that, then, I have to subdue the Marine.
That's right. So you're in a business. I mean, your business, obviously you employ a large number of people. How did you get from where you are? I mean, you leave the Marine Corps. Everyone wants to know, how did you get started? Was it a dream? What inspired you? What took you from there to where you are today?
That's a great question. So having been in the embassy environment, again, I was an enlisted Marine. I wasn't an officer. I completed 2 years. I got an associate's degree while I was doing my embassy duty. And then I got out of Quantico and had in-state tuition at George Mason University. I got a job working for Ronald Reagan's old ad agency, ran by Richard Viguerie. He allowed me to do my college classes, and sometimes I wouldn't even get to the office until 2, but I'd work until midnight. And so he allowed me to get my college degree. And then I decided to take a job at a broadcast agency down in Miami. So I learned, more of the radio and TV side of things. And so, my original plan was to go to college and work for this amazing agency called USAID, which is the United States Aid for International Development. So I got the opportunity to work with pretty much, think of the embassy as the hub of all government agencies. So, you got, the diplomats, you got the DEA, FBI, CIA, all these different agencies that work within the agency. The happiest people that I interacted with were these people doing the USAID projects. Okay. This is where we go into a country and everything they do is amazing. It's like, we're going to build a sustainable water system, or we're going to build this, road system or whatever. And there's nothing bad about anything that they do. So I really wanted to go down that road.
Right.
Getting into the advertising gig, it was a challenge for me. When I was a Marine, they had this Christmas tree kind of performance evaluation model. I was always at the top of the Christmas tree. There could only be one Marine, so it's like, and I could do this. I could run a marathon. I did all these things that were easy, and they, these are hard things, but they were easy for me. Advertising didn't come easy to me. Right. So I saw it as a challenge. So I almost was like, I gotta crack this code.
So there's no, one of the things of the people I've talked to, that one of the commonality is they've experienced a lot of success in their life. But usually the more successful they've oftentimes had a setback, sometimes a significant setback. So to the extent you're comfortable, is there a setback you could share with our listeners? And maybe it was a setback, and what did you learn from that? And how does that motivate you today?
Well, absolutely 110%. I ended up getting separated in 2014, and it was an arduous divorce, and so there was a dark age. I pushed really hard when I went out on my own after leaving Miami and coming to Greenville and starting my own gig, and we were growing at 300% a year. Wow. Which was crazy. Like, right. And those numbers, I was putting those numbers up on the board, I was 100 nights in a hotel room, whatever, 150, 200,000 miles on the airplane. And I lost sight of what was important, and, and how that's played out with my life now is I'm not doing 100 nights right now. I'm not doing 200,000 miles, and I'm remarried. I'm happy. I understand what's important, and and so that's definitely one of those things.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I know as I've gotten to know you, and I'll call and talk to you where I rode my bike, some crazy distance, like 50 miles, or I'm in some race in another state, and I see you and you're scabbed up on one side, or I had a fall. So you like extreme sports, right? So
I do.
So tell me, how do you balance your life today? You were saying with the sports, your family, your business, and it seems like you live with a lot of energy. So walk me through that. What's your routine look like?
Yeah, well, this year I picked one. It was motocross. I raced motocross as a child, and I kind of dabbled with racing enduro races over the past couple of years, and which are a lot tamer. There's no big jumps or anything like that. So this is full on motocross, big jumps, all that stuff, and I had this goal of reaching the amateur national championships. And so I came up with an agreement with my wife, and we said, okay, I want to go after this goal. It's going to take these many hours a week. We agreed on that before, and that was it. I wasn't going to do more than that. And if I hit my goal, I would hit it. If I didn't, I didn't. I made it through the area qualifier, and then at the regional qualifier, I got knocked out. But that was okay. I felt like I gave it all I had. I stayed within the boundaries. I protected my relationship with my family, and I was okay with the result at the end of the day.
That's great. That's great. So if you could go back in time and meet your 20-year-old self or your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
Oh, that's easy. I'd read more history.
Really? Okay.
I'd read more history. I mean, all of the mistakes that I have made, somebody's made before.
Okay.
I've made a ton of them. I always find the right way, but I feel it's a cliche. If you don't learn the lessons of history, you're bound to repeat them, and we've all heard it. But I would just read more history.
What are you learning today?
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning a lot about artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning a lot about placemaking, which, doing some of that with you too.
Mm-hmm.
And I right now, my current read is on Edison. I actually got a great, buddy gave me a great book on Edison, and I'm reading that. So
if you're to recommend to our listeners maybe 2 or 3 or 4 books that are go-to books for you, if you're starting out, you want to build a business, you want to live an informed life, what would you recommend them to read?
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, 110%, Viktor Frankl,
Mm-hmm.
Man's Search for Meaning. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
come on, who's not going to read that?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like motorcycles or not, The Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, it's more of like a book on life.
Interesting.
That's a great read. A couple other seminal reads, like
Mm-hmm.
things that probably the book I've read more than anything, and I bet you I know because I listened to it, and it's a quick listen, is The Art of War, Sun Tzu.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've read that over 100 times for sure. Those would be my top 3 right there.
Wow, those are powerful books. Really powerful. I have 3 motorcycles, and I've never crossed my mind to read The Art of Maintenance.
The Art of Motorcycle. Yeah, it's a great read, and it's not. I mean, the book itself. If you like motorcycles, even better. But if you don't, it's an awesome read. It really is.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. So when I first met you, I met you through our mayor, Knox White, mayor of Greenville, South Carolina. I came to a meeting, and there were a lot of people in a room, and there was a guy who I hadn't really met who was talking about vision for a changing of Greenville, right? So what is all that about? How'd that come about, and where are you in that?
Well, when we came back from California, now I told you my wife is from LA, right? Mm-hmm. So she's never really lived anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And so she loved Greenville. I mean, she loved downtown. Wow. She thought it was, she's like, oh, it's so cute. It's great. And then I think that she had a problem coming into the downtown area. Mm-hmm. She's like, you come in off of the freeway. Mm-hmm. And first off, there's this, ugly sign that says freeway ends.
Right.
And then that's right next to the law enforcement center and the prison. Right. And then there's the bail bonds, and then there's another bail bonds. And then, then there's people taking kamikaze left-hand turns into the historic district. And there's a wreck there every week. I'm like, this is madness. Mm-hmm. So I called the mayor and I said, please come over. I want you to meet my wife, and she has some ideas. And
right.
So then we met with, all the people, and here I am proposing crazy skyscrapers and all this stuff and everything. Right. But ultimately we engaged with this fantastic urban design firm who you have used as well, Placerbia. And this company builds cities, reimagines cities, and we just went on this journey, almost a 20-month journey of reimagining, let's just put the cherry on top of the cake. I mean, come on, this is a beautiful town. So now we have a vivid vision, we have a plan, and now it's up to the city planners to take our code recommendations, implement those code recommendations, and let the developers do their thing.
Wow, that's a lot of change. Well, thank you. I've developed a few things along the way, so I really appreciate the work that goes into all that. When you're in the military, and in the book that I wrote, Who's Eating Your Pie, we talk about leadership, we talk about mentorship, we talk of things like that. How do you give back? How would you mentor? somebody else or lead your team? Because you're in the military, there's a very direct set of rules of engagement, of leadership, and there's a lot of respect in there. It's less so in the private sector. So tell me about that.
It's like anything, it's like the person has to want it first off, right? So I'm down to mentor anybody. What I like to do is I like to find that talent, right? I like to find the guy or gal at Home Depot, right? Or the person that is just not there. They can be so much more than what they are right there, and take that person and frankly, help them be, what I know they can be. And so for me, that's the feel good moment. And I'm high teens right now. Over the last 15 years at the marketing technology company, I think last I counted, it's like 17, 18 people, making over $200,000-300,000 grand, at some other company. These are people that didn't have a career path. I gave them a career path. It brings me such joy.
It's great. Yeah.
Multiple people that have, formed marriages in our company. Like this is the thing, man. This is, I love that stuff,
What do you think is your key to success? What defines you? What drives you? What are the keys that you think that make you different?
That's a great question. First and foremost, I think you can probably catch on to my tenacity, right? I'm going to grab onto it and not let go until I get it. And if I fail, I'm going to fail forward. I'm going to learn from that failure, and I'm going to try again, and I'm going to try again, and until it's not feasible anymore, or I get it.
Right.
So I would say, it's as simple as that. I'm a lifelong learner. I think that anybody today, if you look at the ultra rich, okay, you can get, at some point, you can only get so much stuff, right? Like, who cares about stuff?
Right.
Who cares about the stuff? Like the ultra rich today spend most of their money on education, right?
Right.
So, I'm never going to stop learning, and I'm never going to stop using what I learn to help other people. Because if I can help other people, then that comes back to me. And even though it's not like I'm doing it so it comes back to me. I'm doing it to help them. Sure. But that's just the way it works.
If you were, let's say you're 20 years old, or you're out of school, you're 22 years old, and you wanted to get started, and you didn't know what to do. You hear this all the time. I don't know what I want to do. And maybe I've got an idea, and we talk about mentorship sometimes. How would you find a mentor? What would you do if you were boots on the ground? You wanted to start a new business or go after a new career. What would you do?
Well,
and assuming you're younger, you're looking for a mentor. How would you find that person?
I can tell you that a lot of my success, again, I grew up blue collar, right? My dad and mom, they gave me a lot of love, right? Which was great. Okay. I thought I was going to be a professional motocrosser in high school. That obviously didn't work out.
Right.
But what I always did, all right, on the paper route, whether it was one of my odd jobs or whatever, I took the time to spend time talking and listening to the elderly. Okay. For me, I love my relationships with people older than me. The wisdom that I glean from them, their life experiences. I can talk for hours with anybody that is older than me. Okay. I can find common ground. I can pull threads, okay, out of that are going to help me. But really, like, I'm just enjoying the conversation with these people.
Sure.
And then you talk to enough of them, you're gonna gel with somebody, and that's your person.
Great.
That's your person.
Who are your heroes today?
I have to say, like, I really wanted Colin Powell to be president. And his book, if you haven't read it, I think he was one of the one of the good ones, Ronald Reagan. I mean, we're talking about seminal people here. We're talking about real, right. What the Greeks or the Romans said, you can't judge, a man or a woman to be great until 100 years later. Right.
Right.
So we have to look at that, right? It's too short-sighted to say, oh, well, this person was great, or they were, they have to stand the test of time. And so for me, I'm a little more patient with who I actually put that label on. So
what do you think today is burning in your heart? Is like you want to accomplish going forward? It doesn't have to be business, it could be anything, but is there something that you're looking at? When I talked to you earlier, you're like, I have 1, 3, 5-year goals for my business. I mean, do you do that in other areas of your life, or mainly business, or where do you want to see yourself go?
That's a great question. I mean, if you ask my wife, she's like, I want to do everything else except for work. I put the businesses on the path forward, create the 5-year plans and plug people in to do them. But I think I feel this overarching civic responsibility. I feel like there's a need for us to bolster our military. I feel like there's a need for us to unite as a country. And I feel like all of that is something that I don't feel like there's a lot or any public discourse about. And so when you have countries from the East that have 100-year plans, 500-year plans, okay, that completely involve, taking out the West and making them, the way forward, that's frightening to me, because what does generations 20 years so who cares? You have to be looking at the long ball, and nobody's looking at the long ball.
Right.
At least if you can find somebody, tell me, because I want to hang out with them.
That's true. Now, where did you get your view to look? Was it your family of origin, or what made you begin to look beyond just the next quarter to 5 years, 10 years, 100 years? Is it the books you've read, or what's shaping you to give you that perspective? Because it's not a common perspective. I think it's an important perspective, but it's not a common one.
Yeah, I think I have. Listen, I mean, I don't know how many countries there are right now, but what is there? 180. So I've been to about half of them. Okay. I think that there's not a lot of people that have that world experience.
That's right.
Right. Okay. I've held babies that have been born because the woman was raped and they already have AIDS.
Oh,
I mean, I've been to the worst of the worst. Okay. I have seen the destruction that can happen when when you leverage a country and your whole goal is to get them to default on your debt. I mean,
right.
I mean, come on, man. And then you're going to take their natural resources.
Right.
I mean, so I've seen all this stuff firsthand. So is that what you want? Is that a good thing for anybody?
No way. Yeah, it's terrible. That's right. That's right. That's right.
And this isn't like a political thing. This is just the right thing.
Right. It's so true. It's so true. Well, I can tell you're a thinker and you plan. I was at 12 years old. I had a guy ask me a question, and it was kind of spooky, really. But he said, imagine, Eric, what would you want written on your epitaph? How would you want to be remembered? And he was talking about living your life with that in mind. So what would you want written on your epitaph, or how do you want to be remembered?
Well, we'll see if that happens anyway, because, I'm a skydiver. So, us skydivers, we do the crematorium and we get released over the ocean. So we're everywhere. But, but if it is a gravestone, I would say that, I would hope that they would put, here lies an honorable man. And that's how I like to live my life. When you make a decision, is this an honorable decision or not honorable decision? And I think that, again, it goes back to that road less traveled. If you can take that high line, and be the best version of yourself at every time, then I would love to be remembered as an honorable man.
Well, that's great. Well, if you lead with honor, I know you hire people, you want to have that characteristic. What do you look in people who you would even entertain mentoring or entertain hiring? Is there a characteristic that stands out of somebody you speak with and say, I want to be friends with that person, or I'd like to hire that person?
Yeah, I think for me, integrity, loyalty, mission driven, these are some of our core values in our organization. So we hire and fire based off of those core values. Obviously we do assessment tests and all that stuff too, and everything. But, is this person, a good person? Are they going to do the right thing? It takes a long time to fill a seat in my company. So if we're going to take the time to fill, and train that person up, we want them to be the right person. Even in the pandemic, for us, it was always still, hire slow, fire quick. So, so that's kind of the mantra to live by. And it served us well.
In talking to you earlier, we're talking about your management style, and then you tend to inspire people. What does that mean to you? How do you pass that on? And, how does that impact the morale at your company, you believe, and the performance of your employees?
Well, listen, I can get everybody pumped up at a quarterly town hall meeting. I can create product that can make their lives easier. I can make sure that we all share in the spoils with profit sharing and bonuses and things like this. And everything but the day-to-day administration is good for me. Listen, am I the shining example of a leader? I would like to be, but I don't think I am. I think that I can always get better. I think that there's something to be said about being genuine. I would hope that everybody who's watching this or listening to this, this comes across as super genuine, because I'm WYSIWYG here. What you see is what you get.
Right.
And I think that goes a long way.
So I'm sure the people who are listening to us today, there are going to be people who are depressed, people who are struggling, people who are looking for answers, people who are concerned about a recession. Whatever is going on, there's always fear and anxiety in people. What words of wisdom would you have to somebody? Like, how do you get perspective, and how do you begin to take positive change in your life?
Well, that's easy. You gotta step out of your own skin, and you gotta break whatever cycle is in your life. So when I mean step out of your own skin, like step away and look at yourself as you are another person, okay? And understand why I'm in the situation that I'm in. What are the things that I keep doing? What can I do differently? How can I break this cycle? You gotta, because whatever you're in, you've done it before, okay? And if you don't change, you're gonna do it again, right? So I always use the example of it's the employee or the friend who comes to me and they just broke up with their significant other, and I'm like, well, how did that go? And then they tell me, and I'm like, well, so is that what you want again? And they're like, well, absolutely not. I don't want that again. Well, what are you going to do? Well, so if you don't tap self-help, if you don't read the book, get the counseling, change your behavior, all you're going to do is attract the same thing over and over again. Okay. So if you're in debt and and you don't see an end in sight because all you do is constantly try to get out of debt, then how's that working for you?
Right.
It's not working good. Right.
Right.
So how are you going to change that and break that cycle? If you keep attracting the person that is not the person of your dreams, then that's on you because you're attracting that person with whatever you're doing, saying, anything. So I would say that it's, there's a sociologist, believe it's Irvine Goffman, has this concept of looking glass self. And so look that up, and that can kind of frame up, if you will. I might be misquoting him, but I'm pretty sure it might be him who did that. So
this will be like one of our last questions, but how do you said, look at yourself, look at your cycles. And I would imagine, there's cycles that are good, cycles that, hey, I like this cycle. This is working for me. I want to keep doing this. This cycle I don't like. Do you have a methodology or a cycle? Like, how often do you evaluate your individual performance or your individual results, in other areas of your life? In the book, we talk about faith, family, fitness, finance, friends, because it's so everything affects everything else. And usually when I talk to people, the area they ignore consumes them later because it takes all their time.
Right.
So what do you do to stay on top of that?
Here's the fourth book, right? The book of habit, right? So, I'm wearing this Aura ring. I guess I'm plugging that thing. I was an early adopter of this thing. This is my third one. The first thing I do after I take my vitamins in the morning, which my vitamins are right next to where I plug in my cell phone, is I open the Aura app and I look at my sleep data. Right? Is I've stacked it up and I've created that habit. Right? And so I've created habitual goodness, right? My financial statements for the companies need to be done by the 5th working day. My accountants know that. I've created that. That's just it. Like, there's nothing else. There's nothing that stops that, right? That's it. So I've created those habits and those good cycles, if you will, to effectuate my life in a positive way.
Robert, we're talking earlier, and as much success as you've experienced, you also have a curiosity about you, maybe even a humility, a desire to learn. And one of the things you said that was kind of impactful is you said, I was kind of an odd duck. What does that mean, and how did that really help and influence you into who you are today?
Yeah, I was very determined to not live a blue collar life, to break the mold, if you will. I think there's a lot of social development that happens when you're in your tween and teen years. And I chose to get a paper route and not do things and miss out on all the social activities and be that kid who doesn't necessarily fit in 100%, right? And I think that awkwardness, and has served me well in life later on. But I really didn't feel like I belonged per se, with the cool kids or this and that. Even though I from time to time I would have my social interactions, but like when you talk about a team sport, which I did play, but versus riding the BMX bike or the skateboard, like I was the BMX kid or skateboarder, and to a certain extent, I've never been tested, but gosh, I could be on the spectrum. Who knows? But I think there's a lot to be said about taking that road less traveled. That kid who's sitting at the lunch table by himself that everybody's laughing at, okay? You mark my words. That's the kid. 10-year reunion, 20-year reunion. He's going to come back, and he's going to be the guy with the big paycheck, the big company, who's really excelled in life, done well, and has everything that he wants or she wants. Like I would encourage anybody, to not jump off the bridge because everybody else is doing it, right? Be your own person. That's the New Yorker in me too. You know,
Right.
New Yorkers are so resolute in being their own selves, right? And not letting anybody, influence or waver them. And I would encourage anybody that wants to experience what they want in life, which I hope is the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to experience self-actualization, right? Be the odd duck.
Yeah, the odd duck is powerful. And this show is called Studying Your Way to Success, with me, Eric Weir. And I was in a car wreck at age 5 and lost the ability to speak without a massive stutter. It took me 2 days to say my name to my teacher. And then my family moved around every 6 or 8 months. I went to a new school and was just bullied and hazed, terribly, all the way through. And it didn't end for me until really my 30s. And I would be a greeter at church or wherever, and I'd try and shake somebody's hand, and they're uncomfortable for you. Yeah. So when you're like, they'd look away from you because they don't want to add the pressure. And then one day, and I appreciate what you're saying about embracing who you are and your individuality. What caused me to get over the stutter was thanking God for who I was.
Yeah.
And said, thank you for making the way I am, the difficulties I have to deal with. And it didn't stop the next day, but 2 or 3 years, it went away. So the boy in the paper route. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling, or you feel like you're on a duck, you're out, you're being picked on, you're being bullied, hang in there. There's hope. And hoping listening to this show, you'll see that you too can have a very successful life, be focused, and the pain in life oftentimes is what drives you to higher heights than you can ever imagine, and makes you a kinder, gentler, more approachable person along the way. How did you being treated like an odd duck make you more approachable? Do you feel like it made you more approachable, more curious to learn, and more appreciative of others? How did it impact you? Other than success you're seeing, how did it soften you around the edges, or did it?
I think it inflamed my determination. Especially, seeing, I think, not having anything. One thing that made me an odd duck was, at one point, everybody got polo shirts, right? And so you had to have the polo shirt with the guy on the horse, playing polo and all that stuff. Well, I got hand-me-downs from a cousin. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I had to save up my own money, hitch a ride to the mall with a friend's mom and buy my own polo shirt, Wow. So like, these were the things that, that I did to try to normalize myself, to fit in and be in. And it made me who I am today. I feel so strong and powerful because of it. I wouldn't change it for the world. So if you have a heartbeat, you're special. You matter. God puts you on this planet for a reason. And don't stop searching until you find out what that reason is for you, not for anybody else.
Why were you put on the earth?
That's a great question. I truly believe that listen, I'm sure it came out. I'm a bit of a lightning rod. I think that I am a catalyst for change, i.e. the Greenville Gateway Project. I think that I can be a catalyst of change on many different levels. I think that with people like you and me, I think we can change this country.
Amen.
Amen.
Great. Well, thank you. It's been fantastic having a show. I could talk to you for hours. I get inspired just sitting here and thinking I can charge through a wall. That's great. That's great. Great. Well, thank you so much. Great having you on. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you are learning and seeing that you can be an odd duck. You can be an outsider. You can start from absolutely nothing and go faster and further than you ever imagined. We talk about overcoming our limiting thoughts, our people, what they think about us, our self-perceptions, others' perceptions, and how you can build systems that have been proven to work over and over again to improve your life. Thank you for listening today. Please subscribe and tell your friends about the show. And Robert, wonderful having you on today on Stuttering Your Way to Success.